Hey there, everyone, and welcome to another weekly podcast. This week, we're going to be talking about the upcoming Virgo solar eclipse. So, this is going to be the crescendo to a rather dramatic cycle of eclipses. What makes this particular group of eclipses that we've had? The first one happened at 15 Pisces a couple of weeks ago, and this one we're coming up to in Virgo is that out of the chapter of eclipses, while the nodes have been in Pisces and Virgo, this is the only installment where the eclipses are pure in the sense that the nodes are in Virgo and Pisces and the eclipses have been in Virgo and Pisces. Because when we move into the next eclipse season, we start to get introduced to the new cycle of the South Node being in Leo and the North being in Aquarius. So, with that, I've just come off the call with my Golden Circle members talking about this eclipse. And to say that the energy is palpable, the weightiness of Saturn, and the heaviness of the current moment is very much a thing. So, in this video, I'd like to share with you, obviously, some of the technical components of this eclipse and share you some spiritual and practical tips on navigating this little cycle. So, if you're new here and are not seeing the podcast here on YouTube or on a podcasting platform, couldn't get my words out there, I would love it if you would like the video, leave a comment. And I believe YouTube have a new feature, which does happen to be on my channel, and that's the hype button. So where there's the likes and the comments and the shares and what have you, there's also a button called hype. I believe this is probably a boosting feature where you will get to kind of boost this video and share some eclipse guidance to more people. So feel free to hype me up if you feel so inclined. I'd appreciate that a lot. So, the eclipse, let's get the data and the details out of the way, shall we? So, the eclipse in the northern parts of the world will happen on Sunday, the 21st of September. If you're on the east coast of the USA, it will happen at 3:53 p.m. Sunday afternoon. If you're in London, it will be on 7:53 p.m. on Sunday. And here in Australia, it will be early in the following morning on the 22nd, which will be 5:53 a.m. So this eclipse is the second new moon we've had in Virgo in a row. The first one was at 1 degree of Virgo, and this one is at 29, the very end of the zodiac. So I'm going to share the screen with you now so you can see the eclipse itself. This is in my location of Brisbane in Australia, and we have the eclipse happens at 29 and a few minutes into the sign of Virgo, very close to the South Node. Not a total eclipse, but definitely qualifies as eclipse for sure. Now, as far as the energy of the eclipse itself, what we do find it's very rare that an event, I mean, it can and it does happen, but it tends to be rare that we'll have a notable event on the day of the eclipse itself. But what I do think we will experience during this eclipse, because it happens at the very end of the sign, it will be the build up through the full 2 and a bit days where the moon is in Virgo, where we'll really start to feel the energy of the eclipse come in. Now, just for your reference, again, if you're on the East Coast, the moon will move into Virgo early Friday morning, about 8:22 a.m. Friday in London, so lunchtime, 12:22 p.m. And here in Australia, it will be Friday evening or Friday night, 10:22. So essentially, the whole weekend is Virgo vibes. So what you might feel is lethargy. You might feel fatigue. Sleep may be disrupted. Dreams may be really intense. And because it is a South Node eclipse, the South Node represents purification, letting go, release. Virgo in the birth chart is the small intestine. So do expect some, perhaps, not for all of us, of course, but some of us may experience irritable bowels, tummy upsets, and just not things things just not being terribly hunky-dory in that department. So you might find that it would be beneficial for you if you've got a busy weekend planned, maybe try and reduce things. If you can rest, if you can get off grid, if you can just ignore social media, that could be a really great time to just sort of still the mind, still the body, still any stress or release or stress or restlessness that you might be feeling. Virgo, I don't know if I did I mention this already, rules the small intestine in medical astrology. So, stomach stuff will probably be rather intense. So, it'd be a good idea to do some kind of cleansing, whether that is physical through the diet, through any habits that you've got. You might want to do some kind of ritual purification, or anything of that nature. Could just be a good tidy up of your house, home, office. It's probably best to consider where Virgo is in your birth chart, and that will be the area that could benefit from a cleansing of some description. If the moon was going to be, sorry, if the eclipse was going to be earlier in the sign of Virgo, the energy would be different. So, probably what we'll find is over the weekend, the energy of the eclipse will build, build, build. The eclipse itself, at the time that it happens, will actually almost be a relief, a release, and almost a thank goodness that's over type of energy. Eclipses that occur, new moon or solar eclipses that occur on the south node always do have a certain type of contradictory energy to them. The reason being that the new moon tends to denote new beginnings. In the Jewish calendar, it's a new month, a fresh start, a new beginning. It's a new lunation cycle, for those who are just purely looking at it from an astrological point of view. So usually a new moon is a time to set intentions, to start again, to plant seeds, particularly in an area of life where that new moon is falling. However, when it's an eclipse and a south node, there's a contradiction of terms. The new moon, new beginnings. The south node, cleanse, release, letting go, endings. All that being said, though, I want to invite you to maybe think about things a little bit differently. Because in order to start something new in our life, there usually denotes an ending or a cleansing or release. So, say for example, you decide, right, I need to lose some weight, I want to get fit, I want to just take care of my body better. Okay, that's the fresh start, that's the new beginning. That might mean you have to go through your fridge, go through your cupboards, and get rid of the stuff that will tempt you to overindulge, or things that you know are just not agreeing with you, with your body, or at least with the goals that you have. Maybe you're starting a new job, but you can't start the new job until the old one is done and dusted. I could give you plenty of examples, but I think you get the picture that oftentimes, in the best case scenario, we would end something and begin something new. Um, this energy of the eclipse, do you ever remember that commercial from forever ago? I was a kid. I'm sure it wasn't just in Australia. It's probably a global campaign where John West, the canned tuna. And remember the phrase was, it's the tuna that John West rejects makes John West the best. So we are invited during this eclipse cycle, this particular eclipse, to start to differentiate between perhaps the good fish and the not so good fish, hello Pisces, pun intended there, in our lives. So we have to kind of discern, differentiate, reject. And that's the Saturn in Pisces story. Where are we taking on too much water in our lives, which might be, or too much weight in our lives as per our Pisces house that might be weighing us down? Are we spreading our compassion, our forgiveness, our energy? Are we leaking our energy in too many places, aka taking all the fish, where we have to stop, pause under this eclipse and recognize there are some areas or situations in our life that we may be best to say no to. There's also a very, very strong spiritual energy of renewal. It is the period of Rosh Hashanah, which is the beginning of a new year and a turning point in the cycle of the sun as well. So, unlike good majority of us, we kind of look at life as January 1, a new year. We let go. We sort of cut off from the old year. We forget about that and we just wipe the slate clean and start afresh. The energy of this time is a little bit different. We've got the eclipse, we've got an equinox. Those are literal turning points. And I am going to, pun intended there, lots of puns today. I'm having a Gemini rising moment. And there's a lot of turning points collectively around balance, around democracy, debate, speech. The Mercury in Libra Mercury will just have ingressed in, well, it's just ingressed into Libra as the eclipse happens. So that is the newly ingressed Mercury in Libra rules the eclipse. And it's also connecting with all of the outer planets. So it opposed Saturn at the very end of Virgo, then it opposes Neptune, Mercury then trines Uranus, and then trines Pluto. So it's setting the stage for a lot of 2026's action, this eclipse from my perspective anyway. And so back to the idea of the calendar, January 1, wipe the slate clean, start afresh. This is a bit different, particularly with the energy of the eclipse and the equinox, and of course being a potent spiritual energy as well. We could turn this around in the sense of the Virgo South Node, rather than just cleansing, wiping away our faults. How could we can think about this different? And how have I let perfection destroy or be the enemy of the good in my life? Where can I maybe find those faults within myself and rather trying to just move away from them, discard them, or forget about them, how can I actually use those as some kind of fuel for my fire for my growth, my spiritual growth, correction, and perfection as well? And so it might be an invitation, but this eclipse is a mercurial eclipse. It's Virgo, ruled by Mercury in Libra. And maybe how do I need to come back to a more balanced or whole way of thinking about a problem or a situation that you may be faced with? The South Node, we often see that as a letting go, a purification, but it's also an opportunity to improve, particularly in the sign of Virgo. The North Node in Pisces is forgiveness, it's compassion, it's hope and possibility. And so Saturn's there. And so this is where the true contradiction comes in, I think, because this version of Saturn is different. It has been into Aries. It has been burned or it's been purified and energized by the energy of fire. In the new moon call, the eclipse call that I just got off with members of the Golden Circle, I described the analogy of, let's just say, for example, you've just come out of rehab, alcohol abuse, whatever abuse, and that's Aries. Everything's clear, stark, inspired, fresh, new. And 9 times out of 10, someone who comes out of rehab will relapse. And that relapse is usually the true rock bottom, the true um, difficulty. And so that's kind of where Saturn's come back to. And now, whether it's collectively, whether it's personally, you may have a more stark vision or a stark idea of how bad it potentially something has got, or how much weight you're carrying, how much responsibility you've got, maybe how much responsibility you've shied away from or not stepped up to. It's going to be a little bit different for everybody. So this eclipse may invite you to say, hey, where do I need to make corrections in my life that actually will lead me to a greater sense of meaning, to a greater sense of purpose? And how can I see that reflected outward? And I think this is where the cardinal energy comes from with the eclipse ruler in Libra and the Libra equinox. It's okay to have these thoughts, these ideas, these beliefs, but what are you doing about them? What action are you taking? So you can embrace these Virgo flaws and use those as, attributes and situations to put on the Pisces fire. Bit of a contradiction in terms there, but the idea of the North Node. The North Node in Pisces will denote hunger. Maybe you're hungry for a sense of greater meaning and purpose in your life, but the practical doing of day to day, you feel like you can't. Maybe you are, and I've seen this countless times, and this is why I'm going to use that as an example. Maybe you're a budding astrologer and you really want to put yourself out there, whether it's on YouTube, a podcast, start reading for clients, but you think you're not good enough. That's usually your ego getting in the way. And again, another example of seeking perfection being the enemy of the good. This might be getting into a relationship, deciding to get married, deciding to have children or not. Or maybe this is big career choices for you. What direction do I go in? Will it be right? Will it be perfect? Is this the right thing for me? Often we don't know these things. We only know these things when we take action, when we take an inspired step, when we let go of what should be and fully embrace what could be. So this eclipse does have a really great potential to not only perfect but correct us in the right way. When we tap into where our egos, our sense of things needing to be perfect is being the actual blockage, can often be the actual thing that we need to overcome. And Saturn is bringing into a stark clarity in a way that it hasn't done since it's been in Pisces since March of 2023, because it's dipped into Aries and now it's back in Pisces sans Neptune. So it's a very different version of Saturn in Pisces, in my opinion. So when we can sort of define our lines, when we can reject the certain tuner in our lives, when we can figure out what our priority is and act in accordance with those priorities, with those values, with those beliefs, then that's when we get the harmony of Mercury in Libra, where we can get that balance, when we can feel that, things are kind of right, in a bit of a maybe sort of a Goldilocks fashion. So there might be, when you're looking at your personal chart, the Virgo Pisces, of course, but also maybe factor in the Libra house. This might be the area where the secret source is. It might be in the way you're thinking. Are you thinking too negatively on yourself? Maybe you're thinking too wing on a prayer, or maybe you're so full of hope and compassion and all the wet stuff of Pisces that you've lost a sense of reality. Saturn is helping all of us with that, to get a stark clarity of reality, getting a sense of renewed boundaries, but not to necessarily um, lock things out or to be harsh. Sometimes we do have to reject something, the fish, so we can have the best. And I think that is a little something something that we can all take away out of this eclipse. It doesn't have to be either or, one side or the other side. It can be, I'm going to reject this and I'm going to take on board that and find an equilibrium in it. Then, of course, a big part of the energy of this eclipse is that we have Mars will move into Scorpio pretty much straight after the eclipse takes place. So, with the combination of the eclipse ruler, Mercury in Libra, touching all the outers, which are big players of next year, the turning point of the sun, a very spiritual energy of newness and renewal, plus a Mars in Scorpio, what can you do in the present moment, aka this weekend, that will set you up to take the right action that's not only going to serve you now, but also into 2026? So I'm going to wish you a very blessed and a very gentle eclipse. I would love to know your experience of the eclipses so far. Have you enjoyed them? Have they brought a sense of turbulence and churning things up? Maybe you're just really tired. I know I certainly have been that. I would love to hear your experiences below. Of course, the Golden Circle is always available to join at any time. There's no particular time to join other than your desire. And there's a link below where you can find out more information about the membership, what you get out of it, and what you can expect. And of course, if you want to hit that little hype button for me, I would be so appreciative of that as well. So until next time, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend and a very gentle eclipse. Bye for now.